This gorgeous new device might look innocent, but it's actually a node in a parallel comms network, one most people don't even know exists. A mesh built by the people, for the people. No cell towers, no SIM cards, no big telco in sight. It's engineered to prioritize freedom over profit, cutting out the middlemen and killing monthly subscriptions entirely, which I've got to say feels refreshing in a time where my toothbrush wants to charge me a subscription. This isn't just for tech hobbyists or early adopters chasing the next shiny tchotchke. It's for ski dads in Tahoe who just want to know their kids made it down the mountain, for the neighborhood watch groups in Florida stitching together a backup network before the next hurricane hits, and when ranch hands in Dodge City, Kansas are tagging cattle using Meshtastic devices, you know we're talking real utility. These folks aren't trying to make headlines, they're just trying to make things that work when nothing else does. And I support that. I admire that. So today, I'm doing my part testing this brand new device right here in Brickell, Miami, through a series of real-world challenges, each more demanding than the last, to find out exactly the limits of this movement. This is the new Sensecap Indicator D1, a standalone Meshtastic device from Seed Studio. It's bringing that homestead prepper energy to the fore like never before. Unlike previous versions, this one does not require a companion phone or computer. Instead, it has a gorgeous built-in high-resolution touchscreen, allowing you to send and receive messages directly. And growing up, I vaguely remember fooling around with cans and fishing wire, trying to create a neighborhood comm system, and this is essentially an adult version of that idea. At the risk of being wrong, I'm going to reveal what I believe to be true about the future of this space later in this video, and how culture is also exploring these ideas. This is Meshtastic, a decentralized, peer-to-peer communication system that works without cell towers, without SIM cards, and without monthly fees. It pairs lovely with low-cost GPS receivers because GPS is already free and open source, and GPS coordinates fit squarely in the wheelhouse of data packet size for the LoRa protocol. What if you could reach and track loved ones without a phone, without being near cell towers, and without relying on monthly subscriptions? And yes, loved ones include your pets, which is why I made the Houdini M2, a custom off-grid dog tracker using Meshtastic, built for escape artists and off-leash adventurers. Links in the description if you want to get one. New open source devices like this are making that more of a reality with each passing day, and I believe innovation like this is spelling the beginning of the end for Big Telco as innovation edges us further towards a decentralized future. When it comes to wireless communication, there's really nothing quite like LoRa, which stands for long-range radio. It can cover miles, sometimes even hundreds of miles under the right conditions, all while using 10 to 100 times less power than the alternatives like LTE, 4G, or NB-IoT. In fact, the only real limitation to its range is governed by the curvature of the Earth, which is why there are even small-scale satellite projects leveraging this technology. And for my flat earthers out there, it'll work for you too. Now, here's an insider secret. Most of the boards we use today aren't custom built for LoRa. They're usually upcycled from other protocols like LoRaWAN, Helium, or just generic development boards. But this year, I think we're finally going to see true Meshtastic native hardware, circuits and boards designed from the ground up to take full advantage of LoRa's low power capabilities. And that's where things are going to get really interesting. But let's not get ahead of our skis. This is a brand new standalone Meshtastic device with dual MCU from Seed Studio. But what does it do? Well, think digital text-based walkie-talkies, allowing you to send encrypted messages over the LoRa protocol. It's like CB radio, but with text instead of sound. Now, if you go to their website, you'll see different models of what appear to be the same device. And Seed Studio has a lot of interesting projects under one roof. But this version is built for Meshtastic, and the others are built for Home Assistant and can be used to do things like create air quality control monitors. This guy runs you $60.90 USD, and I'll put a link in the description below to give you 10% off. Now, we've seen a myriad of different Meshtastic devices, but I'm going to make the claim that this is a step change in improvement because it eliminates the need for a companion device. With its 480 by 480 touchscreen TFT display, we can now compose and send our messages without the need for a phone or computer. And I gotta say, this display is clean. Of note, this thing doesn't have a battery, so it does need to be plugged in, and it's powered by 5 volts. And the power draw is pretty modest. And this comes with a decent antenna, and based on your region, you're gonna wanna make sure that you get a compatible device, whether you're in the EU, the States, or Australia. Now, this little device has something unique about it, which is it actually has 2 MCUs. One is an Espressif ESP32S3, and the other is a Raspberry Pi 2040, which is pretty interesting. I've never seen that before. Basically, the ESP32 is the primary MCU, and the RP2040 serves as a relay for the Grove adapters in the back, which you can address via its own USB serial. It also has a slot for the SD card, which can be used for extras, and it just looks really cool. You can send messages back and forth, all using the Meshtastic software, and you're able to use it in places where cell phones can't reach. Now, LoRa doesn't tackle heavy data. It's low data, long range, and the world record is over 100 kilometers. High vantage points offer better range, and open lines of sight also help. It can go up to 50 kilobytes per second, which is going to rule out images and voice, but it's great for text messages and GPS. And if you really think about it, a lot of what you need to relay can be summarized with low data. Even if you had some sort of facial recognition system attached to a gate, you don't need to send the entire image back to mission control. You can actually just do Edge AI and determine, oh, that's my dad, and it'll just send your dad's at the gate back to mission control through text. Or you could have a trail sensor that detects when you break a beam of light. There's all different kinds of use cases. So you can actually get away with a lot using low data. Not to mention that that data can be encrypted using the Meshtastic firmware. Now, when it comes to the software, Meshtastic just released its new 2.6 version, which includes a branch with this new fancy UI. And I gotta say, this is a quality of life improvement. It gives you coordinates for maps, it gives you a touchscreen keyboard, and allows you to see the different nodes within your vicinity. And I'll leave links to that in the description below. Okay, and then real quick, I want to show you how to flash the new operating system, the new firmware, Meshtastic, onto this device. So all we're going to do is take a standard USB-C cable. I'm going to plug it into my computer here. And then we'll be able to do this right from any Chromium-based browser. And we just go to flasher.meshtastic.org. It's booting up right now because it already has the OS, but I'm going to reflash it just to walk you guys through that. So it's super easy here. We just select our device. The D1 indicator is available. And then I'm going to go all the way to 2.6 alpha. So that's the version. And then we're going to go over to flash. And then we're going to click continue. And then I need to select the port. So I'm going to go ahead and click this. And again, it has 2 MCUs, and we want to use the ESP32 to flash Meshtastic. So I'm going to select this right here because this guy's the RP2040. It's the Raspberry Pi. We'll do connect. And again, we want the new UI, the fancy new UI. So we're going to make sure that this toggle is toggled. The toggle needs to be toggled. And then we're going to do update. Again, I'm going to have to select the USB serial that we want. And you'll know it's working when it starts logging out the writing percentage. Okay, and we can see it working now. Sometimes you have to give it a couple of tries because the MCUs can be a little bit temperamental, but ultimately it should start working. So we're flashing the new OS right now, and then it's going to reboot. And we'll set it up and we should be good to go. Okay, and then if we care to know what the MCU is doing, you can always open up a serial terminal here. Yep, so that's one way to see what the MCU is doing. You can just open a serial terminal, and you can see here it talks about different nodes and encryption and just gives you some debug information. So we can always use that if we need to as well. Okay, now let's put this thing through the gauntlet and run it through our series of tests. So first up, we're gonna do what I'm calling the penetration test, which is to see how many floors of my building the signal can penetrate. A lot of times people say, oh, you know, there's the Faraday effect with walls and concrete and other obstructions. But in my experience, LoRa can actually penetrate a lot of material. So I'm literally going to put the base node in my apartment and then descend concrete stairs and count the number of floors I can go before we lose signal. Okay, so what I've set up here is a mini mesh between 3 different devices. We have the T1000E, which is my favorite kind of portable on the move device. We have the H2T, which has a better antenna. It's got this long whip antenna. And then we have our base node, which is going to be the D1, the SenseCAP D1 indicator. I'm going to power that on right here. And so what I have set up here is a range test between all these devices. This guy is the sender. So this guy is sending the messages out, and then what's gonna happen is this guy's gonna beep like it just did every time it gets a message, and it's sending out messages every 45 seconds. Now, why do I have this guy? Because what's nice about Meshtastic is when you create a private channel and add different devices, it automatically creates a mesh network. What's cool about mesh networks is you're kind of as strong as your strongest link. So I'm gonna bring these 2 devices with me, and if either of these receives the message from this device, then both of them are gonna receive it, because then they'll relay it to each other. And because we have 2 different types of antennas, this has a PCB antenna in it, and actually it works pretty well, but theoretically this whip antenna should work even better. And so we see messages coming through right now. And so what we're gonna perform right now is what I'm calling the concrete test. Everyone on my videos says, oh, you need a direct line of sight. But is that true? So I live in a high-rise building. It's a concrete building, so each floor is separated by a couple feet of concrete. And I'm just gonna see how many floors I can traverse before the signal no longer carries. Okay, so we're gonna see how many floors we can go. Okay, as you can see, this is concrete. And we're gonna see how many floors we can go. So this is my floor. Still getting messages. So that's 1. Lots of concrete. 2. 3. Okay, we might be at our limit here. This is 7 floors. Okay, 7 floors. Obviously they're not coming through as strong. But that's okay, so that's 7 floors, 8 floors, 10 floors, let's see. Okay, I think we might be hitting the limit. So this is 10 floors. So I'm gonna put the limit at about 10 floors, because that's where we saw the signal start to drop off pretty dramatically. So, but we should see it start to come back as we go back up. And you can just see how much concrete there is, like with the stairs, right? So, all right, we're 5 floors away, and you can see it's starting to come back. So this whole it can't penetrate concrete thing, in my experience, just isn't true. And we're using the basic long, fast protocol. So nothing fancy with spreading factor or anything like that. Okay, so this next test, I'm gonna just call the urban test. It's basically, if I have the base node here in my office, so I'm not even putting it outside on the balcony or anything like that. I'm just gonna keep it right in the office, so within the confines of this building. How far can I go with still getting a signal in an urban setting with many other buildings in the area? Okay, so we're still getting a message and I am outside of my building. So we're gonna push it and keep going further into the city to see when this stops receiving. Still getting messages, and we're a couple buildings in at this point. So I'll see what happens. So we're still getting messages. So I'm gonna hop on the Metro Mover and see how far we can go while still getting signal. So let's see. If you're new to Meshtastic and want to understand how nodes work and how to set them up, I've created the ultimate beginner's guide. I've also got tutorials on things like getting the matrix style keyboard UI, all linked in the description below. Okay, so I'm a good distance from my building right now, and we did just get a message. So that's pretty promising. Trying to estimate how far I am. I'm probably half a mile from my building. And there are definitely other buildings in the way. But nonetheless, we got a message, so see if we get any more. Definitely not coming through as frequently as before, but still getting a message through. So my building is back there and we're getting messages, but we were also getting messages when there were several buildings between where I was and my home base nodes. So, yep, there it goes. So I don't know, I just don't believe the whole, obstructions are such a big problem for LoRa. In my experience, LoRa penetrates concrete pretty handily. Finally, we're gonna do the range test. So I'm gonna keep a couple nodes here in my apartment. I'm gonna put them outside, so hopefully they get slightly better range. And we're gonna go down to Key Biscayne, which is several miles away, and see if we can keep getting a signal. Okay, so for the range test, we're gonna use 4 different devices just to kind of grease the wheels a little bit and make the network as powerful as we can. So we'll use this as one of the base nodes, and then we're gonna use another node with a different type of antenna as one of the base nodes. And then where we go to actually test the range, I'm gonna bring this guy, and then I'm gonna bring the T1000E. So just a good diversity of antennas and devices to try to create the strongest network we possibly can. So the first thing I'm gonna do is take this. This is a H1, this is a Heltec V3. And we're gonna put this right outside the window. Apparently glass, in the United States we use 915 megahertz. Apparently that is blocked by glass to a great extent. I'm sure it can penetrate it a little bit, but so we're just gonna put it on the other side of the glass to help get a better signal. Okay, so we'll open up this guy, because we're gonna go way out there, so. And then this is in here pretty snug. Let's see, I'm gonna try to just, hopefully nothing falls out the window. Okay, and then, yeah. So these antennas, they work best if they're perfectly vertical. So we're gonna try to achieve that here. Okay, so there's node number 1. It's on the other side of the glass. And then we'll put the second node over on the balcony over there. Okay, and then we got our second node right here. Okay, so we're in the parking garage right now. And this guy's actually still getting messages, and even though we're like 10 floors below our units, so that's interesting. But we're gonna keep driving. We're ultimately gonna go about 6 miles away and see if we can get messages. There's gonna be some obstructions with other buildings, but, well, yeah, there'll be some obstructions, so we'll see. So as we left the parking garage, we continued to get messages, and then we pulled out of my building, and again, we were still getting messages, albeit not as regularly as before. So we continued to drive down towards Key Biscayne, which is an island near where we live. And again, we continued to get messages here and there. One thing to keep in mind is the portable nodes were within the confines of the car. The car is composed of a metal body, which is essentially a Faraday cage. Although it does have the glass, but 915 megahertz has been known to be blocked by glass, at least to some extent. So no, the messages got through the car, but I guess what I'm saying is that they could have been more powerful if they were kept outside the car. So I actually used the sunroof to extend some of the nodes outside the car, at least temporarily, and we were able to get signals. I think it'd be really cool if someone made an adapter for some of these devices to go on a car, to at least keep the antenna outside. But nonetheless, we continued our range test, and we basically found that the limits were about 4 miles. Now, are there other things we could have done in terms of different devices, different antennas, perhaps different LoRa radio settings, like changing the spreading factor or using a different preset? I was using the out-of-the-box long fast preset, but there are other presets that are more optimized for range. They're not quite as fast, and they might even be lower data, but they can give you range in exchange for those other concessions. So certainly there's a lot more that we could do in terms of optimization. I just wanted to give you kind of quick and dirty range test using some of these consumer devices. So hopefully this gives you some sense of the capabilities of devices like this and get the gears turning in your mind about what's possible for you. So what comes next? Well, the choice is yours. You take the blue pill, close this video, keep paying your phone bill, and pretend Big Telco is the only way to communicate. Or you take the red pill, click the next video, and I'll show you just how deep this rabbit hole goes. Thanks.